We're joined on this episode by the one and only James Powell. Great guy, good friend of mine, and excited to have him on. 10-year Marine Corps veteran and did quite a lot of work with the CIA, which he's written about extensively. Before we do get to him, I know that many of you in the audience are stocking up on ammunition, and no matter where you go, it is flying off the shelves right now. Things are really crazy, but if you're looking to get ammo, the place to go is Fort Scott Munitions, and what they have left, you're going to want to stock up on because it is all truly just leaving the shelves as fast as they restock. Fort Scott Munitions is a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition that is designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue. TUI, tumble upon impact, that's their trademark. It leaves devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military-grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. So many listeners of this show have converted over to Fort Scott and have told us the difference, and they're loving it. Fort Scott Munitions is available throughout privately owned businesses in every state, as well as direct online through fortscottmunitions.com. I say in every state, but that's like if your state still has a Second Amendment at this point. Things are ridiculous out there. I don't need to tell you guys. Use exclusive promo code Battleline for 15% off your order. Only available to listeners of the Battleline podcast. That's Fort Scott Munitions, FortScottMunitions.com. Use the promo code Battleline. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Peranto, Battleline Tactical, and the Battleline podcast. Let's get right over to that music, and I don't mention it enough. Done for us by Jimmy Allen, the great Jimmy Allen from Against All Will, and formerly of Puddle of Mud. Still has a songwriting credit on their latest. But check out what Jimmy is up to. Let's hit it.
From Omaha, Nebraska to New York City, from planet Earth to extraterrestrial life in space, a podcast with no equal, engaged in unconventional warfare through your speakers and headphones. This is a show about embracing the suck, conquering your demons, and finding God in the face of adversity. Chris Tonto Peranto.
Twitch is on. Motherfucker, I'm gonna shoot you in the face.
Ian Scotto.
You know, Ian and I have been dating for a long time.
You are now tuned into the Battleline podcast.
The switch is on, Battleline podcast. First of all, man, James Powell, I appreciate you coming in studio because I feel like no one wants to come in studio right now because New York City is a complete ghost town, which you are seeing for yourself. And I'll give James's background. A lot of the, people who have checked out stuff that I've done in the past know your writing, of course. Writer, former CIA intelligence officer, 10-year Marine Corps veteran, focused in the CIA, was with full spectrum intelligence operations related to the Middle East, South America, and Africa, and as well as your liaison duties with foreign and U.S. intelligence partners. Also some work in the nuclear security industry. You've done a whole lot of stuff, and I honestly just selfishly wanted to see this guy again because it's probably been, like a year and a half since we've hung out. And this is your first time of you guys talking to each other, and you both have CIA backgrounds, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah. I haven't been in the radio business like you have for yourself. This is my first time talking to any guest that's ever come on for the most part, except for Jim West. That's the only one I think I've talked because he's come on twice.
Yeah.
What? Who's come in studio? You're saying?
No, just in general. I don't speak. This is my first time talking to anybody that's come on the studio or on our show because I've never done this before. So I don't have. That's what I say. Okay, we've confused the hell out of you.
I don't know what you're saying. But you know what actually would be interesting to get into, I think, is like this audience knows that you're not shy about it. Your background with the CIA, Chris, you have a lot of negative things to say about the CIA at large.
Well, negative on as far as getting in the head shed, yes. But some guys on the ground, it's like in anything else, though, whether in the military or military or agency, paramilitary, the guys on the ground are always doing the job and they get the kudos. But they should from the guys that are working. But when you get into the head shed, the headquarters elements, no, because it gets very political as far as decisions being made. And from my experience, specifically, even just Benghazi, but also other places, it's never about the guys. It really isn't. It's not even really about the mission. It's about, okay, what do we need to do to set up our political candidate to get him elected or her elected? What's going to make them look good? Oh, wait a second. I may be running for office later after my career. What do I need to do to set myself up to make a political run, and if you're in the higher echelons, and it also just to get assigned as to be a director. I mean, who am I backing? Who's going to get elected? What mission should I do? It's going to make me look good because I think this person's going to win, and it becomes less about the guys and more about political missions, political ramifications. So yeah, I always because of the higher levels, and I've seen it. That's the thing is I've experienced it. It's not something that I read in a book or somebody else has told me. I've seen it. I've been a part of it, and I've seen what happens at the worst levels. People die because of political ramifications. But to say that everybody's shitty in the agency, no.
And I know you. That's why I'm wondering from your perspective, like at the agency, positive experience, negative experience. I mean, like how do you look? Because I've never even asked you that, really.
If we're looking at the 30,000 foot level, I absolutely agree with Chris. A lot of politics. I've had bosses who have made it not directly come out and said it, but have made it known that they lean a certain way, so they want us to lean that way. They never came out and said your reporting needs to lean that way, but they were very, very openly secret about the way they wanted us to lean. Now, they never said the 7th floor, which is where the decision makers are, wants it this way. But I mean, if you're a boss, whatever level you're at, you answer to those people on the 7th floor. So you know where your direction comes from. So I've seen it that way. But when we're looking at the ground level, I mean, like Chris said, that's where the literal rubber meets the road, and some great men and women that I work with. Of course, there were some here and there, and I'm sure you and I.
There's shitbags in any They're always going to get one. And I may even been a shitbag on one of the
Absolutely.
trips or two. Who says I wasn't a shitbag?
Exactly. I'm sure someone could say the same about me. But one thing one myth I think that the agency pushes is that whether it's reporting or training or whatever it is, like the farm and stuff, that it's very, I'm always getting this mixed up, that it's very objective. That this is the standard. If you don't meet it, you're gone, or whatever it is. And I experienced that myself. But I also saw a lot of it in people who actually were in positions of whether they were instructors or whatever they were. They said it's very subjective. So if let's just say you're doing an exercise against a role player, that role player has a bad day or has a reputation uphold, as a hard ass or whatever it is. If they decide, well, it's time to turn on the hard ass hammer, even if you did it right, nope, you're gigged. You're dinged for that. And that could make or break, whether you pass, fail, or whatever. And it's happened to me. And that's not me crying. That's not me saying, woe is me. This, I'm not in that person's head, so I can't say that's the way it was. But later on, I've been told, not necessarily me personally, but other people, they didn't make it because the instructors didn't like them, or they got pulled from that op because, their boss didn't like them, a personal thing. Not that they're suited best for the mission, but a personal thing. So on that ground level, we have, like Chris said, there's shitbags there too. So yeah, but overall,
but you're right. We used to call it the Ranger School. You call it RI dependent. What's your grade? Well, it's RI dependent. It's dependent on the Ranger instructor's day.
Yep.
If he just had a breakup with his ex-wife or he caught his wife cheating on her, it's going to filter down to your level. And it did. I saw that with Ranger McHenry. Oh my gosh, tremendous Ranger. And he was a 75th Guy Charlie Company. He was in my Ranger School class, and they were doing a walk, and the RI, the word was that he just caught his wife cheating on him or his girlfriend cheating on him, and Henry was walking. He was on his walk, and he did a spit. He hopped. This is when we could dip back in Ranger School. I don't think he can dip anymore. But he went and he spit, and the RI thought he was spitting at him, and he kicked him out that day. There was no gigs. There was no you get a second chance. You're gone. And we're all like, what the hell just happened? All he did was spit his tobacco out because he didn't want to gut it. We're in mountain face. We're going up a mountain. And the RI, but that's what we're talking about. And then it gets to the point where on that level to even on the grander scale level, 7th floor level, if you're having a bad day, well, guess what that affects? Yeah. That could be a whole destruction of a country because you had a bad day.
Absolutely.
Or it can be political. Then we get political ramifications into it, or political leanings. Again, it's not objective at all. It becomes extremely, extremely subjective. And the funny thing, and I don't think they see it this way, or maybe they do and they just don't care because they're megalomaniacs now, is that just having a bad day can send to that butterfly effect, that ripple effect that goes down where you've just made a failed state because you've had a bad day. I'm like, oh no, we don't do that. No, you're human. It happens, and we've seen it before.
It absolutely does. Yeah, and
that's what's so scary about the agency and the NSA and all those other FBI.
Yep.
It's human nature that can just totally destroy not just a person's lives, but lives. Yeah. Thousands of lives. Absolutely. Just because of a bad day.
Absolutely. We had one instructor when I was going through the farm. She was a female instructor, and she had a reputation for being a hard ass. And she was on a different side than me. There's sides to the whole thing, different sides. So I never role played against her or anything like that. But she was like feared, she's going to hammer you. People don't make it when they go up against her, blah, blah, blah. And, so I got bounced at the end, and, I saw her back at headquarters later on, and her reputation followed her so much that I actually hesitated to say hello to her, but I said hello to her. She was like, oh my gosh, she talked to me, and she's the one that said to me, it's very, very subjective. She said, we talked about, what went on with me and all. And she said, but she said at the end of it, whatever you're going to do now, which I moved into what's called the staff operations officer track. She said, you're going to kill at it, because she highlighted the things that I was good at. She highlighted those things, and that's what took me through my career, and I was successful with it. So it's like, at the end of the day, people are subjective. And yes, at the really high level and on the worst days, people die. But on the best days, somebody like her comes to me and says, focus on your strengths. And that's what I did. So that's why I'm saying the positive stuff that came out of it far outweighed the negative for me.
Yeah, that's cool. I think that you guys, have a different background though in the CIA. So that might be why, and also you haven't been involved in like the same type of thing Chris says.
Well, for Chris, it was literal life and death. It was literal. If somebody is being shitty subjective, people die. And he knows that firsthand, has seen it with his own eyes. With me, it was more, if people are being subjective, either you don't pass a course or the intel that you gathered is just kicked and, put in the circular file and, whatever. So it wasn't. Now, I've been in crappy situations where it was life or death, but for him, it was like every single day. So definitely.
And speaking of James, that's why if you aren't good on the staff level, if you're not good on that 50,000 foot level, and you do something wrong or subjective, you don't see the trickle down of work to get to where stuff happens to me where people die. And that's they can rationalize that. If you don't have, that's why I think on the staff level, you really have to have even more integrity, more virtue, more morality, because you're making a decision and you're passing it on, and you may not see the actual ramifications of what that decision was. And it could lead to something really great where, hey, we found out where Bin Laden is, or really awful where, no, the attack was due to a video. Don't send guys down there. Nothing's wrong. Nothing to see here.
And I've seen the other end of that. wasn't there for the decision-making process in certain operations, but I've seen where it'll hit the news or we'll all of a sudden get a cable that says anyone that was involved in this operation, you need to send us everything you have right now. And people are scrambling. Holy crap, was I involved in that? And our bosses will come out. Who was involved in it? You, come into my office. And it's like, you're like, holy shit. It's almost like, you're in a big family and, you hear dad's on the warpath and so everybody's scrambling. What did I do? What did I do? And, and everybody's trying to cover and stuff like that. And I've seen it. And it's, I saw it from the outside looking in, the whole, enhanced interrogation thing. When that whole thing started blowing up, like all the cables that were going out and like our bosses came to us, were any of you involved in? I'm like, I wasn't even here when that happened. I wasn't even a part of this organization. And, it's crazy. It really is.
Well, for the audience, they might be wondering, like, what goes into being a CIA intel officer? Because, I think people think of, you have to have that super clean record. If you have a DUI, you're not getting in this organization. Gotcha. What goes into it?
So, and please, Chris, chime in here because it may, I don't know if it's the same here, but.
Well, what years were you? I mean, you guys are about the same age, roughly, I think.
I'm 47.
Yeah, so.
49, yeah.
So
we could have crossed paths even at George Bush, man.
Yeah.
Walked in, and it's very likely we could have, and it's not.
Absolutely, he probably had a beer
coffee
down
at Starbucks right there. Yeah.
So for me, I was there from March 2008 to May of 2014. So so we
same time.
Absolutely. So matter of fact, we'll talk about my mentor at the farm. I think you might know him.
Okay, you got it. Go ahead. I got some stories about this. I love construction at the farm, and it was like Disneyland. I walked on like, oh my gosh, it's pristine. There's beach cruiser bikes everywhere. How
How hard could this place be?
I know.
So when you first, without going into like all the crazy details, you apply online. Now I'm sure that there are the whole, hey, we want you kind of thing. I'm sure that happens too. But so basically anybody else, you just apply online. From the way I understand it, you set up a profile, and I think that profile is only good for maybe a week, 2 weeks or something like that, and it disappears. So you're not wasting their time. You pick the jobs you want, you send in your package, and then you'll either get what I call either the fat envelope or the thin envelope. If you get the thin one, it's, hey, thanks for playing. You can try again later. You get the fat one, it's, these are your next steps. Then you'll go through little phone interviews, in-person interviews. And then if you make it through those, you'll do physical. You go like through medical stuff, psych, poly, all that stuff. And then as far as, so the one thing with the physical part of it, and Chris I'm sure this is much different for him. There is no, you're 400 pounds. You can't, we're not going to take you. At least on the operations officer, staff operations officer, blah, 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 that side of the house, as long as it's not, and correct me if I'm wrong here, as long as it's not paramilitary, there is no physical standard as far as like, you have to be able to run 1.5 miles in this time and all that other stuff. And a lot of people are put off by that. They think that there is that. They think that that's, I'm jumping out of airplanes.
Well, did you, as a former Marine, you were probably.
Yeah, I was in shape and I was fine, but there was none. Like when I was going through this, I'm like, all right, so when do we do the physical fitness test? And they're like, who? Yeah. So there is none of that. So now back in the day, there used to be, because I know at the farm, I guess, I don't know when it stopped, but you used to, run, you used to jump out of airplanes, you used to do all that stuff. Like everybody did it, but they got away from that stuff. And I believe the reason is, it was explained to me, was we don't need people who all look the same. So if you have all these big buff guys and gals who are doing CrossFit every day and all this stuff, it's easier to pick them out, when you have them, especially in crowd, in a crowd of all of them.
I think you've said it too, Chris, like having the full sleeve tattoo, all that.
Even, Jane, that's what we did have, we did. We had PT tests, we had dummy drags and everything else we had to do to get in. But then again, if you were downrange working and with the GRS guys or even the GB guys, especially if you're going out in town, you didn't want those guys. No, I never did. It's like, no, you're the high vis stuff, you can ride with me, but the low, no.
Yeah.
Because no matter how much stuff you tried to cover up with, you just look like a big white dude that was doing male hormone therapy. It's like, just don't knock that shit off. So she's spot on that. I mean, you did need those kind of guys, believe me. They're absolutely for certain missions that we needed. And believe me, Roan was a big dude like that. I don't think he wanted to portray himself like that, or he's trying to be. He just was a big guy. And believe me, we needed that big guy that night. But they're just doing daily ops. You don't blend at all. You stick out like a sore thumb. And all they got to do is, there he is. Where I was just saying, guys, we may not all look like we're Arabic or Afghani, but we don't need to look like we're American either, because there's expats everywhere. There's Western Europeans everywhere because of Docs Without Borders and UNHCR. So we can at least blend in some. We're not looking in like myself. I spoke Spanish when I was there, even in these other countries, because they'd have people from Spain and Latin America. It's like, dude, just don't look American.
Absolutely.
With the sleeve tats and the vet bro. And I don't want you there, man. Get out of my car. I'll go somebody else.
I can remember going over to Kabul the last time, and they said, hey, you know the deal. Bring your gear to this airport. You're going to go down to, you don't check in. You go down to this level, and there are going to be other people there. They're going to have a clipboard. We'll get your name. When you dress, make sure you're just regular casual. You're in jeans, t-shirts. But I get down there, there's 511 bags. There's, cami. There's all this, and I'm like, oh my god! And we're all standing around in a group,
standing together, right?
We're all standing in a group, and I'm like, well, if anybody asks, I just got home from I'm in the Marine Corps or something. I was like, this is ridiculous.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's just the culture.
And you're standing with, or was that when you got home from Kabul, or was that when you went to Kabul?
No, I went too. And you're getting on that bus.
Is somebody holding a sign that says IED here?
It was just ridiculous.
Oh, I hated that.
Yeah, and it's a culture. It's like when I was back at headquarters, you could tell the people who had just either were coming back from or going over to a war zone because they have big long beards, massive watches, like couldn't even see their hands. And usually those are the ones who are going and only going for the first time. And you can pick them out. It's like, they're on their way because they have like all the REI gear and it's just.
The Taliban, they love G-Shock watches. That's
absolutely.
How you're blending in.
Yeah.
You gotta have big ass G-Shock.
Absolutely. Like if you have to look at your watch close, you're doing it wrong because it should be so big that you can see it from across the room.
You can see it from.
Yeah, and I have one of a mentor of mine. Gary Schroen, he was a really great guy. We were talking one day in the hallways, and he's like, some kid walked by, long hair, long beard, and he's all that. And he's like, when I started, he's like, if you saw that hippie shit here, he was like, they'd be dragged out and someone would cut their hair. Yeah. But at the time, everybody was all war zone. Everybody wanted to go to the war zone. Some people had to for their career. But it's all a culture thing, man. And I think that we're not moving away from the war on terror as in, okay, it's over, let's go fight something else. But we need to be good at splitting ourselves. We're fighting the war on terror, but we also have China to worry about. We also have Russia. We also whatever to worry about. And at the time that I was there, we had gotten away from it big time. Yeah.
Actually, yeah, that's my question then, because that's all. We didn't get into a lot of the cyber warfare because that wasn't me. I'm not that smart.
No, me either.
So, but that I was always wondering. I mean, our focus was GWAT, was global war on terror, and that's what our focus was. That's what we should have focused on as far as what we were doing. But do you feel that when you were there, especially when you're because you're right. I guess I didn't pay attention to it, but I didn't really see. And didn't hear much about it. Granted, I didn't put myself in the position to hear about it, but more of the cyber warfare. Because that's a big thing. I mean, and then like I said, with the China virus or whatever you want to call it, with that kind of warfare going on, whether it was mistake or not, it's obviously they still were making something, and it affected the global economy.
Absolutely.
Is the agency addressing those sort of things, brother, or they're just washing their hands on it because we're not good at it? Are we not doing it because we aren't good at it?
I think from people I've talked to who are still there, it looks like our focus is now we're starting to right the ship a little bit and bringing it back towards what we were born on, what the agency was born on. And so the things like the virus, they've always been an element
Element, sure.
Yeah, of that. Because I worked in most of my time, besides the small time that I was in NE, I worked in NR. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, National Resources.
Yep.
So that's U.S.-based stuff. So in partnership with labs or whatever, we were doing that stuff, but the nexus was always in my purview, the way I saw it, was always going back towards terrorism. Okay, we see this virus. Did Hezbollah do it? Did ISIS do it? It was always that. Okay. And then until it was disproven otherwise. But it was always there. As far as the cyber stuff was concerned, it was kind of the same thing. It was like, okay, we have these cyber offices, and there's just some amazing people, some of the things I've seen. But it was mostly, okay, what's that that magazine that ISIS had? Or Al-Qaeda, one of them.
I knew you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about? That was a huge focus.
I'm gonna Google it because now you're bugging me. Go ahead, because I know exactly what you're talking. Because it was actually a pretty well done.
Yeah, it was very well. I mean, these are some, as much as we try to call them goat herders or whatever we call them. There's some smart people.
There's some smart.
Yeah,
they're very street savvy. And those magazines had how to. I mean, they were unconventional warfare booklets. Like here's how you blow somebody up with. They were more MacGyver than we were.
Absolutely.
Like, here's a pen and here's some goat shit. How do you blow this shit? Yeah. I went back to the goat reference. Sorry, Taliban.
And they took like the most simple weapon in the world. As far as I'm concerned, this most simple terrorist tactic, and they mainstreamed it, which is using vehicles as. Yeah. To just run people over, they made that, make America or make Fords great again. They're the one. It was like a simple, and everybody else is like, oh my god, why didn't I think of that, honey? Get the kids out of the car. I got something I got to go do. And it was
it's simple. It's simple stuff that they did. They mainstreamed it in their community, and it was what in the hell? Why aren't we 2 steps ahead of this stuff? We got Harvard grads coming on, and we're not staying ahead of the guys that are living in caves. Well, again, I agree with you. They're not dumb. No. They may not have but some of them actually do have certificates from country Columbia and places. Not Columbia University. Sorry, I meant what? Help me out. What's the college in England where you'd see
Cambridge?
Cambridge, thank you.
See, yep. I got my 4-year degree.
There you go, right? But they were so street savvy. They just were common sense.
Absolutely.
Common sense stuff.
Absolutely.
I agree, man.
Yeah.
That's funny that you're saying about the focus always being Middle East, because that's also like, even just as a civilian, you watch the news media, not now, but for the past, really during the Obama years, during the Bush years, everything was focused on Middle East, even when stuff had no evidence of it. You know what I remember is that guy General McInerney on Fox News during the Malaysian flight, where I believe he said, he was like, we know that this flight is stationed in Pakistan, that this plane, and there was no evidence of it, and I feel like everything always had to have a Mideast connection.
Yeah, that's funny, because my wife, who is sitting out in the lobby right now, and I always have this thing, like where every now and then I'll say to her, where's that flight, babe? And she's like, I'm telling you, it's sitting in the jungle somewhere, and they're going to use it. And I'm like, oh, God, and I just walk away.
Inspire. That's what it was.
Inspire. That's a magazine.
Inspire.
That's it.
I remember that. Yep.
So for someone like me, a civilian who's in the outside, how is a magazine distributed in these regions? Like a physical magazine? They pass it out?
It's all. That's. Hey, thank you, Zuckerberg. It's all social media, man.
Social media.
They capitalized on social media more than we did in the beginning.
Yeah.
They knew that's where all those. Remember all those videos they would always. Of the attacks. And I forget the video names. It'd be in Arabic, but that's how they started to do propaganda. They were the best at propaganda, unconventional warfare.
Absolutely.
And any attacks, they would put those videos on TV, and that's how they would recruit, and that's how they got people.
Absolutely.
They were this was 2003, 2004, even before that.
Yeah, because I'm thinking of the what was it, Jordanian pilot who was burned in the cage, but that was way after that.
That was way, but they may have pulled all of them down, but this was before they even had any oversight on social media. So there was some. No, I mean there was actually that truck bomb that I posted that we went in, the dump truck bomb. A guy did a video on that. It was a day after when we were responding to it to go get all the Americans out of that big area. There was already a video up showing the attack, and it was strictly for propaganda. How you kill the infidels with a truck bomb and fire and AK-47. So
and the double-edged sword of the internet and technology is they don't even have to have the full magazine. A kid can just go on and say, you know what? I just feel like shooting up this mall. You know, what's the best way to do it? They type it in, and that article will pop up and everything they need. And it's we don't know about that until after it already happens, and then we go back, we dig back, and say, "Oh crap, that's where he got it from." You know,
freedom of speech, man. It's on Google, and you can't censor it unless the powers that be, the FBI or DOJ. But then if they do, then what else are they going to censor? We've got ourselves in this old quagmire, but that's why we have the agency. That's why I'm asking James how the agency's doing it, because we can use it as a benefit. I would think that if it's out there and it's on the open source, you're doing a lot of open source gathering and information and intel gathering as well.
Absolutely.
So it's double-edged sword. You can get the recruiters out there, but you can track them.
Absolutely.
You can find out where they're doing and what the new tactics are.
Yep. Matter of fact, right now, my present job is I work for Office of Naval Intelligence as a civilian recruiter, and a lot of the intelligence specialist jobs that we recruit for are open source people.
Wow.
People who can just hop on. They know exactly where to go, from clippings of old newspapers all the way up to the latest websites, and they know how to pull all that information. Those are probably the majority of our recruitments.
Well, you know what I saw? You guys probably heard about this. I think I brought it up to Chris a few weeks ago. There was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was trying to stop people from being recruited via what is it called? Twitch, yeah. All these kids who are gaming and stuff. And I would think, that's the next generation of soldier, kids playing Call of Duty.
Yeah. Honestly, I know what Twitch is, but I'm so far removed. My kids are all in their 20s. For me, a Twitch means just that I'm getting old. Something's about to break. I need to go see my doctor.
A couple times.
Yeah. Other than that, but yeah, you're absolutely right. I saw there were like posters. I guess the British Army is doing a recruiting effort, and they're looking for like gamers and all this other stuff. And if it works, I guess I can't. You can't really down it. Well, you're trying. Obviously we're trying because we have remote controlled UAVs that can drop hellfires. From and you can be thousands of miles away. And I know they're trying little robots and stuff. I don't think we got to that level. But again, I've been out. Maybe we have. Maybe there are some cool super suits out there that do stuff on their own. Yeah.
Most of those people, from what I know, doing the drone strikes and all that, they're, I believe, stationed somewhere in like Nevada, right?
So, as far as I know, or different places around the world, but they're definitely remote from where most of their targets are.
And it's weird because we're hearing about like a new breed, a new kind of PTSD or post traumatic stress. I know you'd prefer to label it that way, Chris, but as opposed to someone like you who has actually been there in combat, it's probably a weirder thing to process to be in another country saying, I just drone strike someone and I'm not even in the remote area, but I know that I just someone just ended their life because of me.
Well, I look at James' opinion on it, man. My opinion is you're just like a video game. You're able to disassociate yourself from what's really going on, and if you're getting post traumatic stress from that, I don't know. I'm not trying to be an asshole, but I don't know, unless you've done millions and millions and you're just blowing up people left and right and you start to enjoy it, which that's a possibility because it looks like a video game. I'm not saying that people aren't, but it'd be tough for me personally to say, I got post traumatic stress from because you're not there. It's not personal.
What about though if it's something because just from a morality aspect, I know you've talked about when we drone strike, but when we did the drone strike on Anwar al-Awlaki and I believe what was his 14-year-old son, I know you've said I remember you saying, why do we have to drone strike a 14-year-old? I'm sure the person operating that might be thinking the same thing. Man, why am I killing this kid?
On the morality issue, depending on what the mission is, but I think regardless if you're 1,000 miles, that is the asterisk I'll put next to it. Whether you're 1,000 miles away or whether you're right there, if it's something that it questions your morality, questions your ethics, of course and I think that's where post-traumatic stress, a lot of it comes from. It's a question of, man, am I doing the right thing? Well, it's over. I can't take it back. Now, how do I process it and deal with it? So you're right there. I agree, James. What's your opinion, man?
Me, just the way I am, I will never discount someone's claim of PTS or whatever it is. I'll never discount it because I'm not them. I have no idea. Will I question certain things? Of course, but for me, it's like a sexual assault or a rape victim. I can never say that I know what they've gone through because I've never been through that.
Yep.
So I will definitely say, if someone says, hey, I've been seeing a therapist for PTS because of, I was raped or whatever, I can do nothing but be sympathetic, empathetic. Along those same lines, someone who's sitting in a trailer day in, day out and pressing a button on what they are told, it's not even their opinion. It's what they're told is a target, I'm sure probably after a while it does grind on them. Now, I don't know what the vetting process for them is. I think most of them I think are pilots, maybe fighter pilots.
As far as I know, I don't know.
Yeah, I think, and maybe someone can tell us that later on. But so that part of it, I think the flying around, hey, there's a target. They might be used to that part, but let's just say that in a week span, they've hit 6 targets and 2 of them were questionable because there may have been children on it. I think after a while, 6 months, a year of doing that, it probably does grind on you. So plus, again, you're sitting in a trailer. You're not flying where you get to look outside. You don't have that stimuli. And so I think it might, but I think in your case, Chris, because you've literally felt bullets flying past your face, it is different. Your understanding of PTS is way different than someone who's sitting in a trailer, pressing a button. And I'm not saying it like it's discounting what they do. I'm not minimizing what they do at all. I'm just saying I think it's 2 different perspectives on it. So that's why it's probably harder for you.
Exactly. And that's why I have to watch myself on that because I get it same way. What are they going through? Yeah. Like Debbie Rashawn, what she's went through. I could never experience, and I can't even imagine. Debbie was sexually assaulted, correct? Is that right?
Yeah, she said it on the show with us. Yeah,
I just can't remember if it was, but I can't. And for somebody to live because now you're on guard for the rest of your life.
Yep.
You're always going to have that. So I agree. I agree with that opinion, but it comes back to the fact with James is saying that's exactly right too. Well, I actually have seen collateral damage with a little girl blown up by a car bomb that was supposed to hit us, and so when you tell me, well, I just blew up. I get it. It's children. So I have to process it differently. I have to take a step back and say, okay, manly alpha male Chris, set your ego aside. All right, what are they seeing? Because it can affect you. And whenever it's children involved, it's I don't care if you're there or you are 1,000 miles away. It will get to you later in life because they're innocent. They have no reason to be there. Other than they have the main reason to be there because they're at their house and they're just playing outside or they're playing in the park or they're driving in the car and they just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time and they are collateral damage. So when you put it to that when you say it like that, Ian, with the kids, I get that. That's 100%. I do think that post-traumatic stress comes, especially with children, whether you're on site or you're pushing a button. Yeah. It's something you never, and it did affect me 10 years after. It didn't affect me at the time because I was like, this is a mission. It's what we're doing. Shit happens. All right. As you go on, then you start to get like, oh my gosh, what the hell what did we just do? What happened? Why?
And they're human beings too. So once that drone operator leaves that trailer, they got to go home. So who knows what their life is like at home? It might be crappy there. And then they got to come back in to deal with what they're dealing with at home, then come back in and do this. And at the end of the day, and I'm just speculating here. If it is a bad strike, I'm going to assume that they will get a big portion of the blame, even though they're not the ones making the decision. They pulled the trigger. I don't know what their decision-making process is, and I would love to talk to a drone operator about it. Yeah. So it's like at the end of it, when it comes down 3, 2, 1, do they get to say, I don't think this is right, or do they have to pull the trigger? So they have that pressure, that enormous pressure on them too. So we don't know.
Is that weird to you guys who have been all over the world that could be the next generation of warfighter, the more technology moves on? I mean, like the more effective means of combat could be a guy that actually we've had on the show that like Corey Olanis being able to hack someone's bank account in China than someone who, is actually out there on the ground kicking doors. You know, it could be the drone operator, the kid who's just a really good gamer, you know, and doesn't have the physical capability of Chris, or, you know, a Navy SEAL or Air Force PJ.
What I used to have, not anymore. That was years ago.
Is that weird to you guys though? Like, because I think when we think of warfighter, we think of the stereotypical GI Joe. We don't think of a guy behind a computer screen.
For me, I think, so I'm a huge aviation fan. I love aircraft and all, especially military. So back in the 60s or late 50s, early 60s, the thinking was in air warfare was, we're going to move away from guns on aircraft because, you know, that's outdated. We're going to go with missiles. You know, missiles are the future. And as a matter of fact, there was a push to get rid of aircraft and just use ICBMs. That's how it was going to be fought. So in Vietnam, our kill ratio was very low because we were relying on missiles that were pretty much untested, and you'd pull the trigger, they would drop off the aircraft and just keep falling, boom. And you know, so eventually, after we realized we need to start putting guns on aircraft, you know, back on aircraft, our ratios went up. Then we also, implemented things like Top Gun, Red Flag, stuff like that. Well, in our world, I'm old school in that, yes, this technology is great, and that kid sitting behind the computer that hacks is great. I think that's integral. But at the end of the day, I think someone like Chris needs to be there to kick that door and to verify that the person you just hacked, is the person we're looking for. So I think as long as we keep those two meshed equally, then we should be fine. But if we go one way or the other, it's just not going to work.
It won't. Yeah, I agree. You won't. We'll have collateral damage left and right if you don't have guys on the ground verifying the target, which the agency has. I mean, it doesn't have to be a guy like me. They have targeters that go in and they verify and they pinpoint, and then they say, okay, here's the hit. If you're just trying to do it from a desk, we will have bad hits all over the place unless we have a camera in everybody's rooms and we have access, because you just don't know. And the bad guys move around a ton. Yeah. They're just always moving around. So I completely agree. We can even get so much better at what we do if we implement both into technology, and we have the gamers sitting there. But you also have to be able to work with a guy on the ground, man or woman. Sorry, we're politically correct here. Man or woman on the ground verifying that target. Yep. And it's because like James talked about, like I've talked about, like you just said with the kids, one just a little bit off, a bad shoot that can kill a lot of innocents, and that's not what we want to do.
Absolutely.
Where that's eliminated, pinpoint accuracy with that missile, with all the new technology, or guys going in that are surgical, a Delta unit, blue, red, a GB team, even defending, like a GRS team that's defending bases, then they know what they're shooting at, and they have good discipline to not shoot at things that they shouldn't, which I've seen it both ways. Then you're kind of relating with human error a little bit, but there's so many intricacies that you got to deal with. But I'm in clear agreement with James in a roundabout way. It's got to be meshed together. It really does.
Yeah.
And you know what I wanted your take on is we were talking before about the Middle East. I've seen actually people we've had on the show like Luke Ryan have written pieces about this. Like, where are we headed? Because it's like we're making peace with the people that we were over there fighting for in the first place. Do either of you guys feel like your efforts were in vain? Like, is this mission ever going to be complete over there? Now we have to focus, as you said, on China, Russia, other major threats.
I don't think it was in vain. I don't at all. I believe that the missions that were run by Chris or myself or whoever, that they led to this point. Whether now it's kind of like, okay, we did all this for you, now take it across the finish line. So now it's up to them to take it across the finish line, or else it's just going to circle right back around. We're going to be doing it all over again. Like we were just talking about what happened in Lebanon.
Yeah.
It's like, who's responsible? We don't know. Everybody has their theories about it, but we just don't know.
It's just people on Twitter speculating.
Yeah, so what happens now is going to determine whether all of these other stories you see, these peace agreements or, talking about it, all that, I think that could be the catalyst on, depending on who's responsible, on whether we go right back to the starting line and start this all over again. So I think, but to answer your question, I think that missions like what Chris was running and the men and women on the ground were running led to this point. So I don't think you're in vain, but I also don't think they're ever going to stop. I don't think there's ever going to be a time where they're going to say, all right, JSOC, pull them home. They're done. I just don't think
no more terrorists
ever going to happen. No matter what president's in office, everybody's going to say it. They're all going to say, we're going to bring them home. And as soon as they walk off that podium, there are people who are like, no, the hell we're not. Stay there. Yeah, unpack your shit. You're not going anywhere because they're always going to be needed. You know, people like him are always going to be needed. So, and people like
no major pain ending where it's like, no, sir, you killed them all.
Yeah,
no, it's never going to.
It's never going to happen.
Somebody in the world that needs to kill it. No, it's never going to. It's there's always going to be terrorism. It's human nature. It is. We humans, we look for conflict. We always. I hate to say it. And we've seen it. Here in this country right now, we got nothing else better to do. So what do? We look for conflict. We look for disagreements, and it just take it to the next level when you're dealing with ISIS and Al Qaeda. But then when you're also dealing with the agency and JSOC and all, you know, it's always going to be there. But I agree. You know, if we wouldn't have done something after the 9/11/2001, we would have seen it again, and we would have seen it again, and we would have gotten worse. It's almost like a bully thing. It is where. Okay, no more. We played nice long enough. Now you did this. Now we're going to come and smack the shit out of you. Yep. The problem is that then we end up getting into nation building, and I think we found that doesn't work. It's you hit us. Where's a great movie where they did that? Swordfish, John Travolta. Mm-hmm. You hit us, we're going to come and make it so you never want to hit us again. Then we're going to what we did with Gaddafi. We did that with Gaddafi. Mm-hmm. Perfect example for real world, not a movie. He attacked. He did that hijacking. Mm-hmm. Reagan bombed the living shit out of him. And you should have seen that compound. And he would never hit us again. He was like, "It ain't worth it. I'm not going to hit you guys again." And we didn't do anything. We didn't come in and take his country over until the next president, till the Obama years and Hillary years, and he never attacked us again. Now, I'm not saying that's always going to be the case because Taliban's always going to want to fight. AQIs, they just radicals, but. I just don't believe that going in and trying to nation build works anymore because it's just the ideologies. You can't change. You got to accept people's ideologies. And a lot of times their own countries, like Gaddafi's a perfect example, Libya, will fix the terrorism in those countries for you. That you couldn't find AQI to spit at when he was in charge. He did the worst things to terrorists than we ever would, and he kept his country safe. But you got to accept some of the dictatorship too. It's just. Really, it's a mean wheel, and as Americans, we just haven't figured it out that sometimes it's these countries, these dictators, Assad, and there's a reason they're like that, and the reason is better than the alternative, which is what we're dealing with right now in that region. I think if people would go look and study Syria, Libya, Egypt, and all that, and we've realized, man, they did really have it right, even though they were dictators. Their countries were a lot damn better off than what they are right now. But there's always going to be somebody out in the world, some terrorist that needs some killing. So I agree, James, it's never going to end. It's never going to end, man. And it's job security for all you youngsters out there.
Absolutely.
But I wish I had a better answer for you. And maybe, James, you expound on that even more if you want to, because
I think what we'll see, and I think it's happening now, and I'm in no way, shape, or form special operations or at all, but just talking to people that were in that world, you're not going to see the missions end, but you're going to see the elements that conduct those missions change a little bit. Okay, it was, whatever, Unit A is now Unit B. They're going to do the same thing. We're just going to call them something different. We're going to give them a little, a few attachments to them, and we're going to call them something different. So somebody's always trying to, like you said, job security. Someone's always trying to justify their job. Yeah. So like with my job, for instance, what I do as a recruiter, I have said, so when I start a job, any job, I keep my mouth shut, my eyes and ears open for a while. But I'm also older, so after a while, if I see something stupid, I'm going to say it. So one of the things I said, without going into all the crazy details, is why are we doing this? This should be the commands who want these jobs, who know these jobs. Let's just say it's a like some of the IT positions, the cyber positions. I don't know. Like part of my job is to read somebody's resume and compare it to what they call specialized experience. This is what we want them to have when they come on the job. So I'm reading it and I'm like, I don't know what half of this shit is. I have no idea. So what gives me the right to say they're not qualified for this job? So I went to my boss. I'm like, why are we doing this part? Why don't the commands come to us and say, hey, send us the resumes. We'll look at them, and then we'll tell you these people are qualified. And she said, it's job security. We have to justify our job. Yes. So that's why they get. And I'm like, so I just told Jane, who is highly qualified, that she's not, because I don't understand the verbiage on this, on this specialized experience. I was like, that makes no sense. She's like, well, we got to justify our job. And I'm like, this is a crazy world we live in. But I think that's the same thing that's going to happen with special operations, intel. We're going to start, like, even with at the agency, it used to be Special Activities Division. Now I believe it's Special Activities Center.
They changed the name?
It's Center. Oh, and now I don't know why. I'm sure somebody could tell me, well, they changed because now we have this attached to us, or we took this away, and that changed it. But it's still the same thing. I think it's just, every couple of years, it's like, you know what? We got to shake it up a little bit.
Somebody got an award for that shit. Too.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody got an award for that.
Changing the damn acronym. Acronyms change all the time. Like, why did we change that acronym? Same
we went
shit.
From SAD to SAC. So that should give you an indication.
SAD to SAC. That's funny.
So that should give you an indication. So but I think, like, just like Chris said, it's always going to be there. Like, I was raised in a very religious home. So my mom taught us early on, marches for peace and, and all those other things. They're great. You should do those things, but you need to understand there's never going to be peace in this world. And I'm sure I'm going to catch hell for that. But there's always going to be, the Bible says, there's always going to be wars and rumors of wars, if that's what you're into. Yep. And so I think it's always going to happen. How we conduct it is going to evolve along with that, a mesh of people on the ground as well as technology. The acronyms are going to change, SAD to SAC, that sort of thing. But it's always going to be there. So there's always going to be a need for people. Who knows? In the time of pandemic, we might have drone strikes from home. You might be that operator, and I'll be like, hey, listen, I know it's 6. I need you to go to your computer right there and just hit that button, and then boom. So who knows? We just
that's good. We have a pretty good Christian following that listens to the show, so that was a good. Saying that about the Bible, you're right on. That's what the Bible says. There's always going to be strife. There always will be, because men are. And I'm paraphrasing out of the Bible, because men are fallible. Men are easily swayed. Men are power hungry. And that Bible is being gender neutral there by saying men. So women, you also are power hungry.
When did you get so PC here?
You must catch a lot of hell to have to keep saying that.
Hope that you guys are enjoying this interview. I enjoyed conducting it with Chris. James Powell is a great dude, great writer, if you haven't checked out his stuff. But he hasn't written anything in a little bit. But you do occasionally see other sites repost some of the stuff that he's done in the past. With that, wanted to remind you all that Fort Scott Munitions is a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition. It's designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military-grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. Fort Scott Munitions is available throughout privately owned businesses in every state, as well as direct online through fortscottmunitions.com. That's fortscottmunitions.com, fortscottmunitions.com. Go there now and use the exclusive promo code Battleline for 15% off your order. Only available to listeners of the Battleline podcast. If you're in the market for ammo, this is the best stuff out there. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Peranto, Battleline Tactical, and the Battleline podcast. Let's get right back into everything.
Well, you know what it is too. I mean, we're with the whole presidential race, we've been trying to stay out of politics.
Yeah.
But I do think there's this whole idea, especially when Hillary was running, right? That it was like if a woman ran everything, it would be a more peaceful world. And I think it's, not.
I don't care. I don't care who it is. It could be one of our 3 cats that runs it. They're going to fight, which always happens, and everybody else is going to fight. I just don't care. I don't care who it is in office. I believe that there's always going to be, even with this whole, go back to your original question, even with these whole peace talks, or talks of talks going on, there's always going to be someone within those factions or governments who are going to say, you can sign whatever you want. I need money or I need power, so I'm going to pay this person to blow up that. So it starts a war with them. And there's always going to be someone that's going to, have nefarious intentions. So
going on that, do you think, and I feel this way, but do you think Iran for many, many years were playing the rope-a-dope with us and just getting tons of money, saying they were going to stop their nuclear program, saying they were going to I don't think they ever said they were going to say with terrorists, but were they, because we gave them a ton of money for them to come to the table. And they were going to say they were going to make all these repercussions. The nuclear program was the biggest thing where they're going to shut it down, which obviously didn't. From your aspect, because I didn't get into that. All I saw was what y'all were telling us or what I saw on the news at the time. But I always wanted to get somebody's opinion on that from HQ, why did we keep giving them more? Because to me, it obviously wasn't, they weren't stopping anything. They were just saying, yeah, hey, give us some money. We'll stop. Yeah, sure. Okay, wink, wink. Let's keep the generators going. Let's keep building bombs.
From my second floor opinion, because that's where my office was, on the second floor, way removed from the 7th, it seems to me like it was one of those keep throwing something at it until it works. So I think it was like, eventually, we'll be able to say, listen, we gave you this much money. You got to give us something. Well, usually that ends, and I have 3 kids, so I know that usually it's, okay, no problem, Dad. I'll tell you, put that scratch on your car, like the little things. But it wasn't that, I went out and bought the beer for my sister that led to that scratch on your car. Yeah. It's always little things, so I think it was spitballing on our part. And again, that's my completely non-expert, because I didn't deal with that stuff. Sure.
And that's what I said. And the kid analogy, that's what I would do. That's what we use downrange too.
Mm-hmm. And you both have 3 kids.
The kids, our kids are going to tell us what they want us to hear, so they keep getting cookie. Keep getting that dollar. And we used to make a joke out of it that the CIA's plan was to always give them more plan. Plan being money. Yeah. So we'd always say, hey, what's our plan? Give them some more plan, which is like go hand them bags of money. Yep. And maybe they'll come around. Like, no, it doesn't work that way.
And we did it in Afghanistan too. We did the same thing in Afghanistan. Trunk loads of money and, so you're on our side, right? Yes, sir. And next thing you know, why are you pointing that gun at me? What well, if you give me more money, I'd be better trained in using this gun. And, so it just, we just throw money at it, and
we throw money at it thinking money is going to solve the problem, which it doesn't. It actually even creates a bigger problem.
Yeah, we're not good at being willing to learn cultures. What makes people tick in the area of the world or the culture that they're in. We're not good at. I don't think we're good at. We have people who are very good at it, but I think that their expertise gets to a certain level, and we're like, all right, we're just going to drop a bomb, smack their hand, get out of here. We'll talk to you when we need you. I had a really good conversation with a former professor of my son. He went to Williams College in Massachusetts, very, very liberal college. And but this man, I drove all the way up there, like 4 or 5 hours to sit down with this man. And he was one of the, not originators, but he really bought human terrain. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Yes.
Human terrain as far as coin is concerned, counterinsurgency is concerned.
And could you explain just for the audience a little bit about
human terrain is, and you probably have been closer to this than I have, it's basically getting to know like culture, human beings through their cultures, their customs, their courtesies, things like that, and using that, not in a negative way, but using that to shape the battlefield, basically. So if you can, and I think there actually was a major, very controversial major, I can't remember his name, who embedded himself with a tribe in Afghanistan, if I'm not mistaken, and he dressed like them. He became one of them, and that helped shape shape his tactics as far as fighting the I think it was Al Qaeda at the time.
So I assume this guy was able to either be Middle East or pass as Middle East.
No, he was white as you.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's saying something.
You embed,
No,
in the SF community, it's foreign internal defense. It's
exactly.
FID
Yeah.
it's what ODAs are supposed to do, unless you're on that SIF team, which is more direct action. But that's what you do. The 12 strong. If you ever that's kind of what they did, and that's what they did. The horse soldier at the beginning. And that's what SF was known for, and that's what they still should be known for. And I think they're still doing it, but I've been out for a long time. But you do. You get in there and you bed yourself, you live, and you learn the battle space through their eyes. But then you're also with the cultures, so they're starting to trust you.
Yep.
You got to use those warlords.
Yep.
You got to have the Dostum.
Absolutely.
You got to have that Masood. Gosh, if we would have backed Masood, I still think if we would have backed him and done what he said we need, and he could have done everything for us, we wouldn't be in this position. I mean, that's my opinion.
Yeah.
But we got it. That's what you do as an SF community, but that's what the GB guys do as well. That's what the sad sacks do now.
Yeah.
And
it's crazy.
Trump can talk about it even more than I could.
Yeah. And these, this professor, so he is an expert in this because he, back in the 70s, backpacked through Afghanistan. So he got to know all the different factions, the tribes, the warlords. And I actually have a DVD of it. If you guys want me to bring you a copy of it, I'll send it to you guys. He gave it to me of his travels. And he said, we have the tools to do it right. We just don't have the will to do it right. We are so push a button, pull the trigger, and all that's good, but that should come after we've learned how to live with these, these different cultures. And because I think it'll be the number of times we have to push the button or pull the trigger would be lessened. And when we do it, it'll be right. It won't be, well, we think we got the right guy, or we think that we got the right guy because that guy who hates that guy told us a lie and now we're killing this guy. Whereas if we know the culture and the idiosyncrasies of those people, we can make a better informed decision. Well, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to go talk to this person and get the real story. Again, dealing with kids. It's just like dealing with kids, So.
I agree. I think going back to human terrain, and that's actually what they call it now when they're hiring contractors. And if you don't know what that is, you don't know to apply for it. So Wexford is a good group with that. It used to be. And it's on the internet, guys, so I didn't give anybody out. So don't get all upset. With Wexford. But he's exactly right. That's what I loved when we worked in Afghanistan, working down, especially my favorite base was Kandahar, was Gecko. I love that because we had our own QSF team. So I'd go in the morning, we'd have chai, I'd sit with the commander, we'd have chai, we'd eat naan. I still couldn't bring myself to eat the eggs because they were so runny, and he ate them with his hand. I'm like, and he'd laugh at me all the time. Oh, Mr. Tonzo, you're such a puss. And because I couldn't eat the eggs. But then we go play soccer and we do PT together. Then we go do ops together in town, and we do even just training ops. And you built such a rapport with them that, they would tell you what was going on. We'd be driving down the street and, hey, this is where so-and-so lives. I didn't ask. He would just start giving us information. And you become tight. I actually have a picture I don't know, on my website of me with my hands around the commander and two of his squad leaders after we did just a training hit there at Gecko. And he's spot on. It took months because I was just another guy in there, months when I was there, but it had been going on for years that we'd been building this rapport with that unit. So when we came in, it was just like me coming onto their team. I agree wholeheartedly to that. I do. And so when you do a hit, it's right.
Absolutely.
That hit is spot on because they're telling you. The only thing you got to watch out for is if the tribes are infighting with each other. That's the only thing you had to watch out for.
Yep.
Just in case the families didn't like each other from certain tribes, they might give you bad info to go take out a tribe that maybe he's competing with their opium fields, which he's really not a bad guy.
Yeah. And other
than that, I agree.
Another positive of that result of that could be also too is that someone is less likely to jump to the other side or inform for the other side if you get to know them on that, on that lower level, or I should say that base level. If you're sleeping in their compound and you're eating with them, you're helping them, whatever, with their crops, whatever it is. Now they're seeing you as a human being and not just a uniform or an American. It's this guy is a human being, a guy or gal. They get me. So when I get that night letter or whatever saying, hey, you better rat or else, they're less likely to be scared and take them up on that sort of thing.
Exactly. I agree. We didn't do that in Libya. That's why they turned on us, even though we asked. We did that in Afghanistan in certain spots. And I think that always comes down not to that guy on the ground again. We go full circle back to where we started to talk. It started at the command level. So Libya we didn't because the command told us not to. For what reasons? Because we were moving weapons where we shouldn't have been moving weapons. And we would have, in Afghanistan, the command level, and that was more of those jawbreaker guys that started that. That was the guys that knew what the hell they were doing. They said, yes, you guys need to be with them. GB, got to embed with them. You got to do hits them. GRS, you got to be with them, and you got to do security operations with them. And it led to better relationships specifically. And I thought we were doing pretty good there for a while. And then I guess we got away from it in 2000. I don't know what you tell me when, 2009, 2010, maybe we
probably
got away from
around
it.
then. Yeah. And again, I think it was as technology, when it was easier to stand off and launch a Hellfire than to put, GB or SF on the ground to take because that stuff takes time. It's not overnight. I think we were like, you know what, just push the button, that sort of thing. And we got away from it. And so now we're paying the price for it.
And that can be verified how many drone strikes we had under the Obama years and compared to, not saying I'm a Bush fan because guys out there, sorry for all you guys, I'm not. But we had more drone strikes under Obama than we had any other president. And that goes back to that technology. Not saying he's a warmonger. That's the route that I'm sure his advisors, or maybe, at least I don't think he's a warmonger. I don't know. You tell me.
I don't think so either. But at the end of the day, the buck,
math doesn't lie.
It falls at his feet. It falls at any commander-in-chief's feet.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's expediency. We have this cool technology and it's easier. Let's use it rather than, hey, let's send that team on the ground. And we know it's probably going to take about 6 months to a year for them to really get in with that, with that tribe, especially the elders. And it may or may not work. It's cost, risk analysis. And there are people who do that. Targeters, this is, the risk analysis says, and then it's like, okay, well, never mind. Just pull the trigger. That sort of thing. And but the end result of one is worse than the end result of the other. Put that team on the ground for 6-8 months, a year, and let them bet. And if things just don't go well, then we've learned a lesson on how to do it better. Whereas we pull that trigger, boom, oops, we just hit the wrong person. Now we just created a whole new set of bad guys that hate us.
For years.
For years. And then their children may, and who knows? And we need to invest in our time and people, those two things, because we're going to have to fight our wars with them, whether we like it or not. So,
James, do you think a lot of that too, when they pulled guys and they want guys on the ground, is because as a country we got tired of seeing our own people?
Absolutely.
And I don't agree with that. Guys on the ground, we sign up for that. That's why we go there.
I agree with that as well.
But that's another reason why we started doing the strikes and not putting guys on the ground, because we didn't want to see another American dead in the news.
Absolutely.
And that's what I thought. Again, but for those of you out there, those guys that are on the ground doing it, and I'll tell you, we take that responsibility. We understand that. There have been times we're like, what the hell am I doing here? You know what? I'm here. This is cool as hell. All right, whatever we got to do, let's go do it.
And some of them may say, you know what? You don't speak for me. I don't want to see any of my buddies killed. And that's an absolute legitimate concern and want that we pull out so that your buddies aren't dying. Sure. And I've lost friends, but I've never lost like a brother or a sister or anything like that. So I definitely understand that. But I just think that there's always going to be a need for it. I try to be a realist as much as I can. And I really think there's always going to be a need for it. So like you said, if you're going to sign that contract, you need to sign it knowing that and your brothers and sisters are going to go, and somebody's probably is probably not coming back.
It's not a pessimistic way of thinking. It's just realistic.
Not at all. And it's not me being a hard ass, because I'm the farthest thing from it. Again, my wife is sitting out in the and and she'll tell you. And I'm not at all. But I try to be a realist, and I love history. So history shows us that there's always going to be a need for hard men and women on the ground to get it done. Plain and simple.
Well said, man.
I was wondering your opinion on what's going on right now with China, since we were mentioning coronavirus and all that. A lot of people, especially in the media, you're hearing like oncoming war with China. The rhetoric is getting more and more heated. Where do you think it's going?
I think it's going to go where our leaders let it go.
Which it also depends who the president is.
Yeah, it depends on who's in office. But I think China's always going to do what China's always going to do, just like Iran's always going to do what Iran has always done. And they're going to push our buttons. They're going to, just like you see with Russia. I mean, they got these little, where they shadow our aircraft and, oops, we passed in front of you just a little too close. And, those things that gentleman's war has always happened. But I think it's going to depend on the leaders of each of those countries and how willing they're to push it, or how far they're willing to push it, and how far others are willing to respond to that. Always going to be ships in the Spratlys. There's always going to be contested areas where people are going to put ships or armor or whatever. But I think it's how measured is going to be how measured that whatever it is we're doing is going to be, and how measured the response is, and again, technology, how involved are external actors in whatever it is that's going on. So let's just say us in China in the Spratlys, with our ships. Doesn't take much for someone to hack a system and someone to run off course. I'm saying that knowing nothing about hacking. I'm assuming it wouldn't take much to, screw with a navigation system or do something where it looks like a provocation, and now a third-party actor has caused us to start a shooting war. I don't know if you may not be old enough to remember. Yeah, you might. You probably remember it. When we had I think it was an EP-3 aircraft. It was a electronic warfare aircraft.
I wouldn't even know.
Yeah, so it was flying near China and doing its job, and two fighters came up, and one of them collided with that P-3, and it ended up having, because of an emergency, it landed on an island. Well, that island was a Chinese base. And so they got our people, they got the technology. And I remember that was tense for a while there, because it was like, are we going to bomb it? And so they don't get it. Well, now our people are there. What are we going to do? The crew was eventually released, but just think of where that could have gone. It's like, oh, you downed our plane, shooting war, or we need that technology back. Because from what I just read something about it, apparently we said, okay, we want the aircraft back. And China was like, okay, no problem. You're just not coming on this island to get it. So Russia, I believe, took possession of it. And when we got it back, it was in pieces. And obviously there were things missing. So I think
they got what they wanted to out of it.
Exactly. They got what they wanted out of it. And they embarrassed us. They embarrassed the hell out of us. And so I think, to answer your question, things are going to happen the way they've always been happening. It's just going to matter measured response and external actors, to determine whether or not we end up in a shooting war. I personally don't think we're going to end up in one. I'm sure I'm going to get ripped by, national security experts, but I just don't think that, much like nuclear weapons, nobody wants that.
Well, the question is right now, and I know Chris watched the same interview. I'm a big fan of Gordon Chang. I watched the interview Gordon Chang did about the whole COVID-19 situation. And the way he put it that was interesting is he said China has done what no other country has done before, and that's that they've attacked every nation all at once with what's going on right now. And I mean, that's, you're going to have a lot of nations united against China right now. They've single-handedly destroyed almost every major country's economy, everything, jobs, and we're in a mess right now.
Yeah, we are. I think the problem with that, I do believe that, yes, we'd have a bunch of countries that would be against China, but the problem is how capable are those countries now with everything that's going on? Now, of course, our readiness seems to be, up to what it was, on par with what it was. But then again, I'm reading about whole units in the Army that are, they're canceling training because of, COVID, or they're being confined to barracks and they're not getting PT. They're not, some are, struggling to find food to eat because, the DFAC is run out or whatever it is. So again, much like over in the Middle East, the Chinese are not stupid. And when I say the Chinese, since We're being politically correct.
Why are we being politically correct?
I don't
We're not
mean
talking about Chinese Americans.
I don't mean all of the Chinese people.
Oh,
I mean
course.
the Chinese government and their military. They're not stupid. So,
well, the thing is, I mean, the Chinese government is not like the American government. They don't really have much of a say in what's, it's not like a democracy,
Absolutely.
Republican democracy over here. I mean, they're in that situation.
yeah, absolutely. And
They didn't vote on one-child policy or any of that stuff.
Absolutely. And what my point is, I think that the things that I just mentioned, readiness, there are whole units and, intel units there who are devoted to looking at those things. They're focusing on, oh, look at that, 82nd Airborne. They have 20 cases or whatever. And they're confined to barracks. So we know young people, again, my youngest daughter, no matter what the situation is, they're going to gravitate towards each other. So the chances are it's probably going to spread. So they can report back that, 82nd Airborne, these subunits from the 82nd Airborne, they have this many cases, and we assess within 6 months' time, it's going to spread to this many people, which will bring their efficiency down to this. So then that intel goes to another unit that says, okay, we're doing the war planning. We take that into account. So in 6 months' time, we know that if we were to attack, or do whatever, the likely response would be within this percentage, that sort of thing. So most Americans see it on, again, the 30,000 foot level, what the news tells them, and they're like, oh my gosh, these ships in the South Pacific are they're going head to head, blah blah blah, this and that. But it's much more minute than that. It's way more minute than just those 2 or 3 ships. So again, I think it depends on the provocation, and it also depends on the response to it. COVID hit. We have all our theories about where it came from, who did it, whether it's real, whatever that is. Their governments are taking it as real. So
Of course. Yeah.
whatever the responses are going to be to that, either they are not going to happen because it's too late, or people are biding their time, gathering intel. Like you were asking, what is our, what are we doing about all this stuff? There are people, there are whole offices who are devoted to this COVID-19 stuff from an intel level, for the military, for the CDT, things like that. So I don't know. I don't know what the response is going to be. But I do know that there are certain countries, Russia, sitting back, like just waiting. They're like that cat, just waiting, to see what we're going to do. And, and if they can, like we have 3 cats, they're just going to, how you put an object in front of a cat and they're going to knock it off. That's what they're waiting for. They're just waiting. They're like, oh, let's push this along a little bit. And, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. I don't think there's going to be any super head-on conflict. But why do they need to? We're imploding. We're imploding on our own, and that's the best way to win a war is to not fight. Yeah. I know. There's some funny in the Art of War. Everybody that's served, I think, has read the Art of. You have to. Yeah, there is, and I can't get the quote from Sun Tzu exactly, but there is where you're paraphrasing. Yeah, the best way to win a war is to not fight in the war, and that's what they're doing right now because we're continually imploding on our own. I think, but after watching you and I talk, and you give me information in, I think we're coming out of it. I think, but this is something that's noted now. Like, okay, check mark. What did we do right here? What really screwed up America more than anything?
Right there.
Bam. All right. Now, if we really want to do it for real, because I don't believe it was set up for. I don't. I think it was built in a lab and it got out. Idiots done what, but. They did get a lot of intel collection off this damn thing, so they want to do something in the future.
Absolutely.
How do we do it so we can disrupt completely America, take as many lives, and have the least amount of casualties on our side? And we can just stand and watch the show.
Yep.
They took the notes. The intel that James talking about, guarantee those intel people are like, ha, 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 right, look what we got here.
And again, going back to technology, the thing that sucks is because of the media, because of technology, the internet and all that, it's not just China that's taking notes. There are other countries that are like, ooh, we got a lab.
And it's so funny how, like, especially, how, and I think you and I were really getting into it in the lobby about young people are so distracted by everything. It's like, I don't even think the focus of young people right now is China, is any, because we've all been distracted now, whether right or wrong, by this George Floyd issue, which has nothing to do with, the major thing we're going through right now as a country.
And then, like you said, when we were out there, it's not to detract from that situation. It's all tragic, all of it.
Yeah.
From that little boy Cannon to George Floyd to everybody, all of those are. But, and I just had this conversation with my oldest daughter not long ago, we can do it all at once. We don't have to say we're only going to focus on race issues. And once that's fixed, then we'll focus on China. Or we can do it all at once. We have people.
But in order to do it, you have to get the country on the same page. And I have never seen the country so divided.
Absolutely.
Ever. And there's no middle ground on anything, which is just, the same thing you and I were talking about. It's a really crazy place to be in. I think there is, I remember you've said it before, Chris, on other episodes where you're, and I feel the same way. Where you're like, I'm really not on a side right now. I don't, and even with, we've had police officers on the show. We've had, I'm not on. I take everything on an individual basis. If I hear of a police officer murdering someone, I want to see what happened. I want to see the reasoning behind it. I'm not going to automatically say cops are good, Blue Lives Matter, and I know Chris is on the same note.
I'm the same way. Whether it's politics, whatever it is. My parents always taught us once you know the difference between right and wrong, it's on you. Be an adult, get all the information that you can, and then make a decision. If you're wrong, learn from it and do better next time.
That's the best way to learn. Right?
Yeah, that's the way to learn.
Making a mistake. All right, what the hell did I do wrong? All right, let's change it.
And I know a lot of people love to blame the media. Oh, the mainstream media. Yes, they have their part in it too. But if that's your only excuse for hate or whatever it is, or not liking a certain side, then you've got a lot of soul searching to do, because you're an adult. Yes, the internet has some screwy stuff on there. We all know that. But that's when you filter through all that and say, okay, this is what I learned on the internet. This is what the media is telling me. This is what I read in a book. Put it all together and come to a decision. But to say, oh, it's just the media, or it's just technology, or, to me, it's
a cop out.
It's a cop out. And it's dangerous. It's very dangerous.
That's why, and either two things you can do, and I've said it before, is that, like myself, I turn it all off. Mm-hmm. I was such a big part of it for such a long time, being 3-4 years, that I felt myself, I'd never taken a side ever. And I was on a side, and I was making things worse. Mm-hmm. I really was. I mean, there were some things that were going on where truths were coming out, but as a whole, I had a big part of causing people to go, because this is my. When I finally did it and I pulled myself out of it, like when I was deploying all the time, which I never paid attention to it because I didn't care. The media got it wrong half the time anyway, because I'll be on an op and like, wait, it didn't happen that way. Yeah. What the hell? And when I pulled myself out of it, I was able again to, all right, I'm seeing everything again, using my common sense. I'm not being spoon fed this. So it's either go that way and shut it all off, or like Ian does, listen to all of it.
That's what I do.
So you've got, you really don't have it. Well, what's the middle? No, there isn't a middle. You either take it all in, the stuff you agree with, the stuff that challenges your paradigms, and the stuff that doesn't, or you just shut it all off and you just visually, and you're going to be a little bit late on picking things up because you're not in the know.
But it's informed.
Making better decisions.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and if I'm going to keep it real here, I will say it's a little bit, because I wouldn't say I watch all of it. I don't even have cable, so I don't watch Fox News. I don't watch MSNBC. I don't watch CNN. When I'm over my parents' house, they're constantly watching this crap. But I have my few trusted sources that I will read. There's been a lot of stuff that's been completely unreported by very trusted sources, and it's out like there was an article in Newsweek, right, about the origins of coronavirus, and we may have been studying it in a lab. U.S. funded, and it got out, and it's that stuff is not even being reported. And that, someone like Dr. Fauci may have been behind the funding for that lab. None of it's being reported, because he has some media campaign going on that he's like the greatest man, trying to be like sexiest man in the world. The cover, it's true. There's so much bullshit out there. So yeah, I really don't watch any of that stuff, but there are good sources out there. The problem is, and Jack Murphy said this once, people love to watch the split screen debate. They love to watch certain things, because I remember him saying specifically, he's like, I could write a great piece on China, get great sources, have all my work cited, And what piece is going to do better? Some douchebag walking around the army like he's an army, walking around the mall like he's an army ranger. Yeah. And he's like, so don't tell me that that's not what you guys want to read. Yeah, this is what you guys click on. Yeah. You know, like when I go on Instagram, it's all these people outraged about someone on CNN saying some stupid shit. But vote with your eyes and your clicks and all that. I don't watch any of that. I'm not aware of what Don Lemon is saying because I know it's all nonsense. Exactly. I don't. So to be fair, I don't watch any of that. But I do.
Let me be clear with what I mean about Ian. Is that he listens whatever he watches. It's both sides.
Yeah,
it's not just.
Or I'll try to just get the actual news. You know, because being a media guy, I could tell you this, and you guys have seen it more than me because you have been in this world longer than me, right? But Hannity and Combs, for example, had such a successful show where it was Sean Hannity arguing this side and Alan Combs arguing this side. And that wasn't all of the news at one time. At one time, the news was we're going to report on what's going on. You're going to learn about the story, and then you could form your own opinion. Now, when you turn on the TV, pretty much all of it is modeled after that Hannity and Combs thing. Yeah, we're going to have this guy from this super PAC debate this guy from this super PAC, and you're going to form an opinion on it when they're both paid shills. You know what I mean? Like I've talked about it with Chris, like no disrespect to him because I've actually had him here in the studio. It was never released, but like Pete Hegseth, for example, right before he was on Fox News, he was with Concerned Veterans for America. The reason that name will do very well is because vets rank very well amongst the public for people they trust. They don't trust the media. They do trust people like you guys. So a group like Concerned Veterans for America, they stand for veterans. All right. I want to hear what they have to say. What is Concerned Veterans for America? They're a super PAC paid for by the Koch brothers. But if it was called, you know, Concerned Billionaires for electing Republicans, you would be like, this isn't a source that I give a shit about. You know, so it's just once you could kind of see what's really going on. Once you see that these people are all paid shills on TV, many of them, I'm not saying everybody, but you know, it's, you kind of realize like we are all being played, all of us.
That's called being woke. For you know, whether that's a good term or bad, but you're absolutely right. Like with me, what I do is if I see let's just say I'm flipping through and I see on Fox a certain story, I will immediately flip to CNN to see what they say, immediately flip to BBC right after that, see what they're saying, which is usually the more fair of all of them.
Actually, BBC is probably more down. That's why if you're going to watch, then watch BBC or C-SPAN.
Absolutely. And then just to see, because I told you, I was sitting in the Op Center once, and we have like all these big TVs, and two of them have to be on the news at all times. So one was CNN, one was Fox, and it was the same exact story. And the headline spun it two different ways, and I took a picture, and I think I put it on, and of course I didn't show anything operational, and I put a caption that said, "Welcome to America" on it. Because it's just crazy. Because, and I think you were saying that then you learn like the definition of media.
Oh yeah. I've said it to Chris, man. You know, like when I went to school for radio, you know, there were these certain teachers that were like NPR teachers that wanted, you know, they were all about like the public good, like this. Yeah. Yes. But I had one professor, actually, John Mullen, who was great. You know, he is one of the guys who made Hot 97 into a rap station, and he's like, dude, I'm like a white guy in my 40s. I don't give a fuck about rap, but it was profitable. He was like, you know, he was very no bullshit about. He was like, I was going to the clubs. This is what people were listening to. I said, this is, you know. And he would always say this from just a matter-of-fact standpoint. The purpose of radio is selling people to advertisers. And that's the purpose of all media. So if you turn on any of these stations, right, unless it's something publicly funded, you know, like, you know, I'll read ProPublica, which is publicly funded, but whether you're watching Fox News or MSNBC, they don't give a shit about informing you. They want to sell people to advertisers. They want to keep you watching that screen as long as you can so that you're going to buy products and be a consumer, not to be an independent thinker, not to be informed. And I know Chris has come to the same conclusion. And, you know, I just think once you've reached that conclusion, you're more able to turn it off and realize that a lot of it, not to, you know, use Trump's rhetoric, but a lot of it is fake news. A lot of it, you know.
And you also, when you step back away from it, you're also able to, as Chris just did, you're able to see what your part is in pushing this stuff forward, what your biases are that might be pushing that agenda one way or the other. And you can say, okay, I need to tone it down, or, like I'll see a lot on social media. People will post stuff, and it's people who I know and love, and I'm like, oh my God, that's absolutely false. But I'm not the kind where I'm going to jump on and be like, well, actually, if they ask me, I'm the kind of person where
Chris knows this bothers the fuck out of me.
One of the things that I've always held to is, don't ask me my opinion if you don't want to hear it. If you don't want to hear it. So if someone asks me, hey, what'd you think of that piece I just put up? I'd be like, it's a bunch of shit. I love you. I'll see you at the cookout, but it was a bunch of shit. So like, for instance, I just saw it last night before I turned off my phone. I was on Instagram, and someone put up a picture of an older woman. She was sitting on a lawn in a lawn chair, and she's being handed a ticket by a police officer. And it said, old woman arrested, basically, but it said, old woman arrested for protesting in support of Black Lives Matter. Yeah. So I looked at it, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of vague. It looks like he's handing her a ticket. Yeah, let me look through it. So the first thing I did was it caught my eye with the comments. Oh my God, I can't believe this is happening, blah, blah, blah. But I always know what's coming, so I keep reading. Someone said, well, actually, if you read the whole story, you would know that she is not sitting on her lawn. She is sitting, I think it was the governor or the mayor or someone's lawn, and was asked to leave. There was a bunch of them. All of them left. And this woman said, which I applaud her for doing it, she said, I would rather be arrested than to basically to go against my beliefs. And I believe that. That's civil rights movement. It was the exact same thing. So she was, I don't think she was handcuffed, but they put her in the back of the car and they took her away. But if you just read the headline, which is what people do, they tailor it towards people's biases. It looks like the cops dragged this old lady off of her lawn for protesting, and that wasn't the case. So along with the media selling us to advertisers, I believe that they exist to play on our biases. And I don't know. Yeah, and I would love to know, and maybe when did that, has it always been like that in the media, or when did it change? Like, because I remember hearing about or seeing clips of, the news during the time of the Vietnam War. It was brutal, and it was, hey, this many people, this many troops died in the A Shaw Valley, today, but we killed this many, those sorts of things. When did it go towards the Hannity and Combs type thing, and hey, this is your opinion, and I
feel like I'm too young, but I've seen it go more in that direction. I think they've seen the success of Hannity and Combs and The View and all this crap, but and actually Hannity and Combs was a good show. I'm just saying, not every show needs to be Hannity and Combs, but
in the sports world, when we talk about Mad Dog and
Mike and the Mad Dog. Yeah.
I mean you want that in sports realm, but you don't want that where it could divide a freaking the Yankees and the Mets. You may divide the Yankees and the Mets fans. Okay, but when you do that irresponsibility, when you report like that, you're dividing a nation. And this is what's happening.
And I think part of the problem too is and you know what? I actually will just say, and I don't watch any of it, but just from what I've seen, I will give Fox credit that I think they're a little better at this than the others, is the differentiation between an opinion show and a news show. When I watch Chris Wallace, I do feel like he is giving me the news. He's pretty objective on most things. There's been a few things here and there. Actually, he said something the other day that I saw going around that I did not agree with. He called like an AR-15 a weapon of mass destruction. I was like, all right, that's stupid. But for the most part, he's a pretty objective guy. But, I know if I turn on Tucker Carlson, it is an opinion show. Tucker Carlson is a more conservative-leaning guy. You turn on Rachel Maddow, you're getting a liberal opinion show. But then you turn on something that's a daytime show like Brian Selter on CNN, who's supposed to be the news, and it's all that, like, Trump is Hitler. And this is not the news. Yeah. That's not news.
And they're slick because they intersperse their opinion in with the news as they're reporting it. President Obama, said this at the DNC convention, and then they give their opinion, and then they go right back to the facts. I just, it blows my mind that we've that we allow it. I mean, I know First Amendment, all that other stuff. I get it. I'm all about all that stuff. But I really believe these CEOs of these, or the owners of these news corporations, need to, of course they're not going to, but in a perfect world, they would come back and say, listen, just the facts. That's it. That's just say the facts. It used to be.
But does that sell?
No, of course not. It doesn't sell. You're absolutely right. It used to be that opinion pieces were for either the newspaper, or at the end of a newscast, they would say, little Johnny fell down a well. And, there's been talk of this town fixing their wells for even. In my opinion, it's been that thing. But now it's so embedded in the actual facts that the facts are actually removed from it, and just the opinion counts, and it feeds our biases. So it's it just feeds our bias. Whatever the facts are, all we take is that person, that news station. It's not even the anchor. It's that news station's opinion, and it just reinforces our bias.
Honestly, I bet it could be tied, and this is my opinion, it can be tied into when the reality shows started to take off.
Yep.
That's when people started to make money. You had, what was the one on MTV that was, Dave Chappelle makes fun of it all the time. Great.
Oh, the Real World?
Yeah.
Real, yeah. But then you start to have the competition reality shows, Survivor, and then the Jerry Springer type shows. Mm-hmm. And I think people started to see the news. It's like, wait a second, look what these guys are making money. They're gravitating. Look at all these. We got to start making it more real, more pop culture. And I can't. I'm not going to say I'm right, but my opinion is they started to take off that when those started to get popular, and now reality shows are everywhere. America's Got Talent. I mean, like from America's Got Talent, which is not a political, but it's still it's real people, real TV, real persons on there. Then you still have the Shark Tank and all that. News is following that same avenue where it's just completely. Well, you're going to make more money if you have more real people causing strife. And dissension on TV.
Yeah, it's like real. And for the reality shows, it's more like a Real Housewives show than a Shark Tank.
That's a perfect example. I couldn't think of a perfect example right there. Yeah. That's a perfect example. And
people love it.
I wonder if I ever do my PhD and I do dissertation, I am going to do that. When did news turn to shit? I bet and Real Housewives when I would look at it, and Jersey Shore and all that other stuff. That's good for entertainment, but that's how news is now. Man. So I don't know. I had a question for you, James. Don't mind. With the agency, because there were times where even in our incidents where the analysts, and this is out of your spectrum a little bit because I'm talking more about analysts, but they were utilizing more social media even that night to determine the attack instead of listening to guys on the ground. When did media and social media become so more important that it was even this is my experience, 9/11, 2012, that they would rather have listened to their analysts watching the attack on social media than listen to what we were giving them in real time. So it's more social media intelligent than human.
Yeah.
Is it been that way, or was that just maybe ours was just an isolated incident that it doesn't really happen like that?
I can't say whether it was an isolated incident or not, but I think if it is the norm, it's because our analysts are younger now, and that's the world that they grew up in. So they're probably more apt to listen to social media because, it's been proven that some attacks have been thwarted because of somebody blabbed on social media. And I think they took that one little nugget of success and ran with it. And so now it's way past them to say, I don't care that Tonto is sitting right there. And I'm going to go with what the social media says. So I think I think it's a cultural thing. And that's just my opinion. I could be absolutely wrong.
I agree. And again, I agree with that from my experience, but also I think it comes back to what you said before. And what we've talked about is that we lack full circle. We lack common sense. We just can't think for ourselves. We've got to, hey, there it is. Hey, man, maybe it might be wrong. Maybe no, it's got to be right. No, it's not. These guys are getting hit. No, I see it on Facebook. It's right. You get it.
Yeah. So, he can't be him. He's tweeting right now. He can't be attacking you. You can't do two things at once. Yeah.
I loved your comment on that, man. With the multitasking, that we can't multitask.
It just drives me up a wall. I had the conversation with my daughter because, and I definitely do not want to get into this whole thing, but the whole the protests and the riots. And I made a comment that she didn't like, and she said, "Dad, but that's not where we're focusing right now." And I said, "And why not? Why can't we do it all at once?" I said, we're all adults. We have the resources. We can do it all at once. And we're seeing it. We're seeing a virus. We're seeing the Black Lives Matter movement. And tacked onto that, we're seeing attacks against trans people and gay people and all these. So if we're able to say all these things are out here, why can't we each do something to fix it? It makes no sense to me whatsoever. But it's the hard thing. That's why. It's the hard thing to do. And people want to do we're creatures of comfort. So we want to do what's comfortable for us. It's like, so my oldest daughter, she's gay. She's married, she's married to a woman, and I love my daughter-in-law to death. And my daughter-in-law said to my daughter the exact same thing. She was like, "We're gay and we're Black. So we don't have a choice but to focus on, more than one thing." And, it was an eye opener for her. And I think as a country, that's what we need to realize, is that we have to get out of our comfort zone in order to fix things. And even if that means backing someone that we don't necessarily like personally, but if professionally, if they do their job well, or they're willing to push forward policies that are going to benefit our country, not just benefit the rich or benefit white people or Black people or CEOs of companies, if it's going to benefit all of us, then we need to get behind that person. And it sucks.
The thing is, though, I don't think there is.
I don't believe there is either.
There's no one that I like.
Again, I have 3 cats. If one of them might be willing to run and do a better job, but
that's why. Chris knows I feel this way, and I think you do too. That's I'm always up for everybody saying whatever they want on this show. We try to make it a pretty free speech atmosphere, but I do hate when someone uses the show to be like, "You need to go out and vote for this guy," because it's, for one, it's not really what we do.
Yeah.
But it's also like, I don't know. I don't believe in putting my faith in these people. Chris says it all the time. Put your faith in God and Jesus Christ, whatever you believe. That's where your faith should be.
Yeah.
I've never, I don't vote. And I've seen stuff overseas that I end up like, you're an idiot. You're not. Yeah, I have tried to help this country a lot of years by serving, but to say that I have faith in a man or a woman that, and every one of them's ego driven.
Yep.
Everyone to say that's where we lose we put all our faith in this false idol. When you've got an idol. That's all you got to do is listen to what's going on, and live your life, and just be good by each other. Protect yourself. You don't have to. I'm not saying you have to take shit. Take a little bit of it. You turn the other cheek every once in a while. But to say that we're going to be saved by, whether in this case we're going to be saved by Biden or Trump, no, you know how we're going to save it? It's right here. This is how we're going to save. Not me, guys. Not Tonto. We're ourselves.
No, but it's true. I think. I'm sorry. I was just going to say, like, all of these instances we're seeing, like, really could be if people just tried to be their best self every day, and that's why, like, our main focus on this show is always like self-motivation and being your best self. We would see a lot less problems. And I think people are so much more focused on this American over here is my enemy, rather than, well, am I being my best self? Do I have a good moral compass?
Absolutely.
And as a Marine, when you were a Marine, you equally hated probably everybody. So it was all good.
Couldn't stand them. I'm still debating the woman that's out in the lobby right now. She can't hear this. She can't hear this, right? No. Okay, it doesn't pipe out there. All right,
she can't hear you right now, right?
And I think that one of the problems is being our best self to people today means what's best for me. What do whether that's I'm going to throw my best PR deadlift on. That's me being my best self. It's not outward. It's not external. It's not how am I being my best self to you, the way that I know you should be treated, whether I agree with your opinion or your lifestyle or not. People are just so quick to, what's that term, echo chamber?
Yeah.
People love their echo chamber. They love playing to their audience, especially on social media. And again, even in the mainstream media, they play to their audience.
It's so funny too, because I see these people posting right? Trump memes or something all day long,
Mm-hmm.
and those are the people all following them. You're preaching to the choir. No one is changing their vote because of what you posted.
Yes, and Jack Murphy, he's one of my go-to opinions on things. You know, very, very intelligent guy. Of course, he's not the be-all, end-all. I collect all the information. Guys like you, ladies that I know, and I form my opinions, but he said that exact thing. You're not changing anyone's mind with the stuff that you post because you're posting to people that think exactly like you do anyway. And the rare times that I will say that everything that's going on now, I've seen sort of an inverse of or a reverse of that. Whereas let's say you have 500 friends on Facebook and you post something, the likelihood is that 100 or so of those people are going to be like, that's fucking wrong, and blah, and then boop, you're unfriended. So now you're down to 400. So I think, yes, we're preaching to the choir, but we're also driving people away because their opinion is different than ours. Instead of saying, look, this is what I believe, but I respect what you believe. Whether I think it's right, wrong, indifferent, whatever, we don't add that little bit onto the end of it. We don't have the guts to say, I can accept the fact that you don't agree with me. No, it's automatically you're you freaking idiot Trumper, or you liberal, or like we're quick to call names. We're quick to label people, and of course, as we're all taught, you can do 1,000 good things, but that one bad thing you do or say, that's what people are going to remember, and that's exactly what's happening, in this country. So, like with again the riots and the protests. Two separate things, whether people want to believe it or not, two separate things, but because, and this is my rare blaming the media, because we're inundated with the riots, the protests, and what sparked those, completely obliterated.
They're gone.
No one remembers.
Nobody even knows.
Yeah, most people won't even remember it. They'll just remember the riots and the looting and things like that, and it's designed that way.
Well, left and right doesn't help on that, because that's all they report. How awful, and they are. Riots are awful. People are losing their businesses. They are, but it's like, again, we could even the right could win so many more people over by coming back and circling back to what that focus was, and not making it as a derogatory.
Exactly.
Hey, well, this is what it was about. Yeah. Look what it's gotten to now. It's like, hey,
none of this started in a vacuum. Go back to why it all started in the first place, As
an objective report, not this is what always happens when there's protests, and which actually that's what some of them have done. Mm-hmm. That my wife, she does still read me news at night. She do you want to hear this? No, I don't want to. No, I don't like it. Well, I'm going to tell you anyway. All right, what's going on? But no, I completely agree with you. But just living good, just having a good virtuous life. Mm-hmm. Living a good life, this stuff would end. It would. Yeah. I'm telling you, it would. People want to believe that. They want somebody to come in and squash it, or let's have a civil war. Yeah. Like, are you shitting me, dude? Yeah. Really? No.
That gets tossed around so much.
You don't want nothing. No. Yeah. We don't want that. You have no idea what you're asking for with that. Yeah. And that would. Well, I don't even want to go down that route.
I'm sure we just triggered a lot of people with that.
Is that New York?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people triggered with that. What's wrong with the Civil War? Every country needs a good cleansing every now and then. Yeah, okay.
Hey, but I did want to ask about your Marine service a little. Yeah. I love when we get veterans in, because there's always people there's youngsters that listen to our show that are thinking about going in. Mm-hmm. And I'd love to, give them, if you could give them some advice, how you prepared. I know it was 20 some years ago. I'm old too, brother. Yeah. So I'm not but what would you tell them? And again, because I just got asked again last week. Hey, I want to go to Rangers. What are you thinking? Well, I've been out for a while, but this is what I would want you to prepare yourself with, and how your mindset needs to be before they go into boot.
Absolutely. So I'd wanted to be a Marine since I was like 6-7 years old. My parents said that and I think you've heard this story already. When I was like 6 or 7, I came up to them and announced that I was going to be a Marine. I like the Oakland Raiders and I like the Michigan Wolverines. The last two because of their helmets. Knew nothing about them, nothing about football, just like
their helmets. That's the same as Chris. You always say like the colors, the Cowboys.
That's it. So, and I'm still a fan, but So with the Marine Corps, at the time, there was no click here and I'll send you my whole, soft preparation, workout thing. There was none of that. So I just read every single thing I could find on the Marine Corps, because then I love history too. So I read everything I could. And I wanted to be a pilot. And again, I love aviation. So read everything I could about that. And I talked to, before I even thought about, or not even thought about, before I was able to join, I started talking to recruiters. Like I would go in the recruiter's office, have my mom drop me off and be like, oh, this fucking kid again. And I would go in and just look at the posters and ask questions. And so when it was time, when I was old enough, they were ready for me. They, I already knew I was going on an infantry contract, and, I already knew what I wanted to do. So, but in there, in the interim before I went, I played sports. So I'm not saying that everybody has to play sports, not at all. But it does help, because not just the physical aspect of it, but it teaches you teamwork, it teaches you pain, it teaches you loss, all that stuff. So I played sports, and I also, worked out on my own. I think it's a little easier today because you can Google a lot of stuff, but people who are really trying to get into this should know that it's not necessarily the power lifter that does well, or the bodybuilder, or the marathon runner, or it's all of those things. Like, you don't have to be big, but you have to be able to do pull-ups. You have to be able to do crunches. You have to be able to run, which I cannot stand. At this point, if you shoot at me, I'm just going to walk fast and zigzag.
Well, you're currently a power lifter.
Yeah,
right?
But that does nothing for my running.
Which, by the way, I
makes it
have
worse.
to ask. This has probably been crazy not being able to do your max lift.
Actually, our gym is back open with modifications. We're allowed to open back up. So
have you lost strength?
Yes, absolutely. I'm basically not starting from zero, but kind of. Like, I work out at home, but I don't have a full setup. So
anyway, I just wanted to put it back to
So I mean,
you don't like running.
Yeah, no, I hate
the opposite
running.
of this guy.
Yeah. Oh God, don't ever ask me to. Ever. Listen, you can also shoot. So if we're together and somebody shoots at us, I'll walk fast and zigzag. You shoot back, and we're good.
I'll run it, but I'm not a power lifter, so if you get shot, I'm not carrying your ass. So.
That's all right. I'll just lay there anyway. Be like, finish it. But so you got to be in shape, but you also. So I found personally, because I guess I was already in shape, good enough shape. For me, boot camp was hugely mental, huge. I mean, it was just like the stuff that they quote unquote do, and it's not like Full Metal Jacket or anything like that. They're not beating on you or anything like that. But mentally, what they make you believe, what you're capable of doing and what they're capable of doing to you is just amazing. Because literally, you get so into the regiment of it that by the time you've done it, whether that's swim calls. I was just telling somebody not long ago that I don't know if it's changed or not, but when I went through, part of swim call was the first thing you do is you go to the shallow end of the pool, you jump in, and you literally walk across. It's waist high. It's waist high. I saw guys lose their absolute minds having to jump into that pool. But by the time that week, I believe it's a week, swim calls, is over, they're jumping off the 10-foot platform and saying, I can't believe I just did that, because you're so regimented and I don't want to let my, fellow recruits down, that you just do it. And all that translates, farther on down the line into combat, and you would know that. So to prepare, I think obviously you need to be in shape. And they're very good at, before you go, getting you into shape, your recruiting station.
They do that now, right?
Yeah, they have pool leads.
We didn't do that in the past. Now, like PT in the morning at the recruiting station.
Yep, absolutely. And they'll do like PFTs, mock physical fitness tests, and all that stuff to get you prepared. But what they can't do is completely mentally prepare you. You have to get in that mindset. My mindset was they're not going to kill me. Well, at least not purposely. They're not going to kill me. So, so I was able to get through it with no problems at all. The problem is I internalized things. So the week in Marine Corps boot camp, and I think they still do this, when you're done with boot camp, between the time you graduate to your next school, they give you like 10 days off. So I had my oldest daughter at the time, and I remember I'm playing with her and my stomach's bothering me. And the next thing I know, I'm waking up and my cousin is banging on the window because I'd passed out. I had an ulcer because I'd internalized.
All that.
Yeah, and it all came out as an ulcer, and there's like blood on the floor, and my daughter's looking at me like, "The hell's wrong with you?" And so I think something that can, especially today with the focus on mental illness and all that other stuff, if this is what you want to do, understand and accept why you're doing it, what you're going to be getting yourself into, and having an outlet for the stress. Like, you get free time at night, you can write letters and all that stuff, but you're still under stress there. The thing to tell yourself is it's only in the Marine Corps world, it's 13 weeks, I think it is. It's not forever. So you can either quit or you can stick it out for that 13 weeks, and then you're not home free, but you're a Marine at that point. And so I think it's, for me, the mental part of it should be about 80% of it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. You can push yourself past physically as long as your brain doesn't shut down.
Absolutely.
I developed my ulcerative colitis, which is basically ulcers was in the military.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it was from Fort Benning water that was heavily chlorinated, which basically destroyed every organism in my. But I agree. And that's the beauty though of being a runner, because I ran and I got better in the Army because a lot of the stress I would take out in the mornings. Just run. I'd run. I made it a point to try to beat the drill sergeants to where I'm either going to pass out or I'm going to make it.
Yeah.
And I think that saved me from getting, because I do. There's a lot of guys that do that gets those ulcers in you because of the. And then also, Rangers, we laugh. We constantly laugh over the stupid shit. I mean, some guys. Article 15, Matt Best, they make a damn good living off what we. That's the sort of, and I love him. No, Matt's awesome. He's a great guy. He is. He just outside of the Article 15 stuff. Him and Evan and JT and all. But that's where that laughter comes from. He's just doing stuff we used to do skits when we were at Ranger Battalion. It's that laughter that gets you. And you can go that route. And the Rangers, we go that goofy ass, you're an idiot laughter sort of routes, but it can get you into trouble as well. But I agree. I agree. You have to be prepared mentally for that. And just say it's going to suck. So what? It's going to suck. Absolutely. They can't kill me. If I pass out, they'll revive me.
Absolutely.
Right. So I agree. Good. Well done. I completely agree with you.
And you can't take yourself too seriously. You can't. Yeah. Like you said, the laughter thing. You obviously got to know when to when is appropriate to laugh, not in your drill instructor's face. But you have to be able to see the humor in it, and you have to have a reason, an external reason for doing it. Yes, it's, I want to serve my country, the altruistic stuff. But for me, I had a picture of my brand new daughter that, she was my motivation. So the day before you graduate, it's like family day where the families come on the base and you show them around and stuff. And I remember my mom and my uncles and my dad and everybody getting out of the car, and my mom is holding my daughter. And the last time I'd seen her, she was, a couple months old or whatever. And all of a sudden, my mom puts her down. I'm like, no, she's going to fall. And she's like, just wait. And my daughter walked to me. And it was like, holy shit. That told me right there. That made it all worth it. That made 13 weeks worth it. So you have to have that mental motivation, that external motivation. And some people are like, well, I don't have a family, or my family's shitty, or whatever it is. That's fine. There's something else that you're doing it for. If you're doing it for a paycheck and free college, you may last long, but you're not going to go far.
You're not going to go the distance. And I want to tell guys, it's okay. And I think Jack and I actually talk about it on the show. We talk when we do talk. It's okay to be self-serving too. It's okay to say, you know what? I'm doing it because I want to see.
Exactly. For me,
I want to get that beret. I want to get that scroll. I want to get that. I want to get wear the uniform. I want to accomplish something. There's nothing wrong with being selfish. For everybody to say, "Oh yeah, I'm doing it for my country." Well, you are, but it's really that's what the recruiters want you to say for the commercial. You're doing it for yourself. The far line was, man, that cool ass black beret. I want that damn beret.
Exactly.
Because I'm gonna look cool.
Absolutely.
Or the driving force with it. So. Yeah, so I always tell guys, it's okay to be a little selfish to want to accomplish this goal. And then when you got a family, that's even more so. Because like, man, you are. No, well said again. Perfect.
That's awesome, man. Well,
wrapping things up here, you could follow you on Twitter, but you haven't been very active.
Can I say, am I allowed to use the F word just once?
Fuck yeah.
Fuck Twitter. No, I really can't. I cannot stand that. It's just.
Should I even give your name out then?
No.
James Powell he's definitely not an influencer.
Yeah,
He's not on TikTok.
I can't stand it. I am on Instagram. For those who don't know, this is James Powell is not my true name. When I started writing for another entity, I was told, so if you
could I have gone with your real name this whole episode? We don't have to call you James Powell.
I mean, you can call me Jason if you want.
Yeah,
Jason. My first name is Jason.
You ruined it. It's too late now.
It's true. I just ruined a lot of people just took my poster off their walls now because of that. So if you are former Intel, I know agency for sure. I don't know about others. If you decide that you're going to write, you're going to do speaking engagements, you're going to do anything about your former life in that Intel agency, you have to have it cleared. Whether it's a book, whatever it is, by I think it's called the Personnel Review Board, PRB.
Yeah, it's PRB.
Yeah.
You get a clearance lawyer to do that to the PRB.
So when I started writing for that other entity, I started sending in my articles to them, and they would come back and say, they would redact this out or whatever stuff that, of course, we all think is stupid, but they have their reasons for doing it. So one of the stipulations of me being able to do that was they said you cannot write under your true name. So I picked. I don't know why I picked James, but Powell is because Colin Powell is one of my personal heroes, and I'm guaranteeing people took my poster off their wall after that. Whatever, fuck Twitter. No, so, but yeah, and I'm not talking necessarily because of his policies at all. I mean, it's just his life story. Yeah. So,
but the same way a lot of people feel about John McCain, right? I mean, no one could discredit John McCain's life story.
Absolutely.
But a lot of people hate his politics, understandably.
Absolutely. So that's why I really liked him. And, true story, I was taking a piss in a rest stop on 95 in Maryland. He walks in. Thank God he's socially distanced, but he's right next to me. And you
didn't say nice neck to Mr. Powell.
And I guess it would be DSS at the time. Stood literally with the door open and just stared at me, and I felt really uncomfortable. Yeah.
Oh, so he had security. He had a security guy
stood
there?
right in the door and just stared
DSS,
at me. Yeah. And I didn't slap him on the ass on the way out, but but I got to piss next to Colin Powell.
You have a hair on your nutsack. If he does that again, you don't slap him on the ass. Dude.
Well, now I can. Private citizen, pow! Good game. Yeah.
So no social media we're promoting, or
no, not under that name.
All right, so there's nowhere you're going to find this man.
Yeah, no.
We need more influencers on the podcast.
Listen, here's the deal. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I am at James Powell, right? You tell me.
No, it's at JPowell1192.
There you go.
You have like a decent following.
I know, but I couldn't take it. And with everything that's going on now, and like people who are still on there have told me, just stay away from now.
You guys are both off of it. Yeah. I've barely been on.
I had I had 270,000 or something. And I was like, screw this shit.
Yeah,
this is I shit canned it.
Yeah,
like,
they're good people, and I appreciate those follow me, and maybe I will probably jump back on there to just toxic, look around.
Dude. No,
but yeah, there, and you don't really know the people you're following. That's part of the problem. Is there was a guy who was following me, and I accepted him because of who he knew. He followed people that I followed and who followed me and all that. So I figured, okay. Foolish me. Well, then I start seeing this guy is posting that apartheid should have never been abolished in South Africa. All this crazy racist stuff. And I was like, so I, out of character, called him out on it, and he just lost his mind. I laughed, I Twitter laughed at him, but, it's just hilarious. Like some people really believe that Twitter is real life. Yeah. At social media, period, is real life, and it's not. It's just not. So, long story short, I'll probably jump back on there, but
All right. Well, at JPowell1192, we're about to get thrown out of here because it's after 2. Anything you want to mention? I mean, I know you just had a course, but
I appreciate. Fantastic, and again, it's great info for the youngsters out there on the Marine Corps, and then the agency. Yeah. Hey, good stuff, man. It was a good interview. I really appreciate you being candid on all that.
Appreciate
Thanks,
you. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Yeah, you finally.
Yeah.
Do I say Jason or I'm kidding.
I'll answer to either. or wallet, or hey, I need to go to the
I'll tell you
store.
what, can you say your call sign? I know you probably had a call sign, right?
I did. It
Can
was
you
so.
say yours?
Well, it wasn't Delicious Jenkins, right? That's
No,
your,
that is my alter ego. Delicious, if you're out there, I'm coming to get you, baby. So it was Coco Ninja.
I like it.
I have heard that. Oh,
Yeah. Whenever I would be
Coco Ninja,
turning
yeah.
back into the base, down the street from, in Kabul, and I would have to call my call sign to come in. All you'd hear is giggling on the radio. They're like, "Come on in, Coco Ninja."
I know I heard that before. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's hilarious, dude. That's so awesome. I remember that. Okay, Coco Ninja it is. That's what we're doing.
Another episode in the books. We are 45 episodes into Battleline Podcast. If you enjoyed it, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Pick up a shirt, tonto-apparel.myshopify.com. And as I always say, we're not on Patreon or any of that stuff. So the way that you could support us is by picking up a shirt, leaving us a review, and supporting our great sponsors like Fort Scott Munitions. Fort Scott Munitions is a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition that is designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military-grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you're going to receive the same results every time you pull that trigger, whether you're at the range, hunting, or anywhere else. Fort Scott Munitions is available throughout privately owned businesses in all 50 states, as well as directly online through fortscottmunitions.com. Use exclusive promo code Battleline for 15% off your order. Only available to listeners of the Battleline podcast. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Peranto, Battleline Tactical, and the Battleline podcast. That wraps it up. We will see you again on Monday.
That's all for this episode of the Battleline Podcast, but we'll be back on Monday with more American Straight Talk. Until then, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Battleline Podcast and on Twitter at Battleline Pod. To sign up for future Battleline tactical courses, go to www.christantoperanto.net. Believe in yourself, face all challenges head on, and as always, never quit.